All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we go into the next event, which is the reflections and the takeaways, it's been a long 3 days. I think most of you probably feel like you've had a fire hose attached, and we want to recognize your involvement here because it's been a lot thrown at you, and hopefully a lot of good stuff that you can take away. We thought about recognizing you with graduation certificates, but we thought what might be better is the Next Jump Academy Leadership Academy T-shirt. Yeah. 2017 graduate on the sleeves. So each one of you are going to get those. We're going to give those out to you now. So Jason, congratulations. There's Ryan. Dave. Joel. Tony. Nathan. General Leonard. Chief K. Esther. Ken. And Barry. Michael. Peter. Colonel Zudo, is he back? Katie. Dino. Kevin. Hey. Patrick. Kevin Smith. Alyssa. And General Miller.
You won the title on Mr. Humble? What's that? You won the title
cool.
on Mr. Humble?
So the kind of graduation T-shirt. So what we wanted to do now is actually something we had experienced with folks at the Navy when we went out to visit Whidbey Island. At the end of it, so we spent 3 days there. They gave us a really cool experience, showing us how they kind of develop leaders in the Navy. And at the end of it, there was a kind of a capstone event at the end. It was at the Officers Club, or kind of a bar basically. And so I assumed it was going to be kind of beer and chips and be fun, but it was like Army, it was military style. So we got into a room. There was a big square table. Everyone sat down, and basically the big admiral in charge was, okay, now everyone, tell us what you learned, and we went around the room. And so that's what we're going to do now. Tell us what you learned. I think at the end of it, maybe we'll save some final remarks for Charlie and Joe, who I think kind of put this together. Not to put you on the spot, but you can put your reflections as well. So with that, it's just going to go around the room. Myself, maybe I'll start with myself as a next jumper. That this was a very gratifying experience in that when we work with people that are just so, first of all, what you do is incredibly cool and it's so powerful and important, obviously. But when we see the kind of risks you guys are taking in terms of developing leaders, and it just gives us more courage and more fuel to keep going. What happened yesterday at the lunch, I mean, you guys kind of shared all the stories from you guys. It's just really cool and powerful, the stuff that you guys are doing. That's awesome. So with that, I guess we just go around the room. Anyone can volunteer to start.
Taking the chance to get her done. All right, so of course, thank you. We have to say it to all of you, and thanks for having us. It's great meeting everyone here. The people of Next Jump and the diversity that's here and the way that people operate is incredible. And that I learned about people. I learned about myself probably more this week than I have over the last 37 years of my life. And really, it just a lot of inward thinking occurred for me, at least this week, after talking about the way the feedback system works and everything else. Just kind of give myself personal feedback. As far as all the curriculum and everything, the biggest thing I loved was the business 1, business 2, kind of looking at what you can do and kind of dividing it in half and saying, I can look at what I do for my job, and then also look at how I can develop other people, how can I develop myself, and then all the tools that you guys provided to us that are obviously working here. I'm going to do my best to kind of take and fit the things in my organization and bring them back. So thank you very much. Thanks, team.
I think that I'll remember these last 3 days as a highlight in my military career, because it is the first time I've really partnered with people in industry in a hyper-competitive environment whose bottom line is a meaningful thing, and that I haven't had very many experiences like this being in Manhattan, which feels very high class and very sophisticated. So I think that's the best compliment I can give you, is that I will remember this, and I've done some pretty fabulous things. I've been honored to participate in some pretty fabulous things. For me, the takeaway is thinking about the evolution of education from being a subject to being a follower to being a citizen, and that requires new capacities and requires new assumptions, and it requires, it requires me to be adaptive as well. So that's a huge insight for me. Thank you.
So I would echo the uniqueness of this experience. It was, I think it was the most unique experience I've ever had. In that, sometimes when I've been to leadership courses and things, they tell you all of the things that you should be doing, right? But I don't really walk away with any access to making that happen in the life that I lead. And I think what I saw here, the two biggest things that were most inspiring to me were the number one, how you all have the courage to experiment with things. Like even just now, you were saying it doesn't matter really what we call it. Like we're just trying things and we're seeing what works, and then once it works, we'll codify it and try to pass it on. And that was really inspiring for me, because I don't have to have it all together when I try things out on my team, right? Like I can just try shit out, and if it works, great, and if not. And then the other thing that I was really inspired by across everything, across the snacks, across the courses and everything, the workouts, everything, was kind of captured in one of the feedbacks that somebody got at some point, where the coach said, your presentation, it felt unpracticed. And what I really got out of that was it is okay to hold people to a high standard of excellence, and to say, hey, you're a 2. You know what I mean? And just create that culture where that's okay. And so I was really inspired by that, to stand for a level of excellence on my team and in my organization, that and just call people up to that. That's what I saw happening here. So thank you for that.
A couple things. As has been said here a few times, sometimes you come to a thing like this and you walk away and then you feel good for a little while and then it falls off. And so I felt like from our breakout session with the 4 folks we had with Kyle just earlier this afternoon, I was very encouraged that each of the 4 people in there had very specific ideas that they'd obviously been thinking about throughout the course of the 3 days that they can take back to their organization and actually put in practical application. So that was a huge takeaway for me. And then the other thing is this idea of generosity. And we've talked a lot about keeping the problem in the room in our organization, but what it showed me this week is that we actually haven't been doing that to the extent that I thought we were, because I've been placing blame on other people and finding areas where I'm like, well, we're constrained by that, as opposed to just finding the right lever and finding the options that I have to fix it. And so I think it uncovered a blind spot that I had where I thought we were doing that, but in fact we weren't.
This was a good experience for me. I really liked the coaching aspect and the giving of feedback and the different techniques that they use for doing that. And it's something that I think I can incorporate what we do in our organization and also in some of the courses that we teach. I like the technology that they have and wondering how we could integrate that also into our school and our organization. Overall, I think this is a great experience. I think it's great for us to go outside the Air Force, go outside of the government in essence, and see what a more competitive business does. And it also helps us set the bar a little bit higher, so it gives us something to shoot for. So I appreciate that. I appreciate all the people here who helped us and coached us, and who are doing all the snacks, and especially the people who are working behind the scenes that we can't see you too much. I appreciate all that stuff, because I know it's a lot of hard work, and it's taken away from your job and what you do every day, but we appreciate very much, or at least I do.
I just want to reiterate the thanks again to Charlie and Megan and the whole Next Jump team and Spoon for having us out here. Learned an epic ton and just totally revitalized going back to my job. Kind of the two things that I really took away is that I've never left work and been like, man, I really accomplished everything I needed to do. And I'm always feel like if I just had some more time and to that realization that I am wasting, and I always kind of realized it, but never verbalized the fact that we're just wasting so much time figuring out how not to say what we really need to say. And the other thing that was I really was touched by today in Megan's talk was that maybe it's time that the Air Force kind of reimagined its mission. And you know, we're so focused on defending freedom through air power, but Megan's here for a different reason, in that she's trying to set an example for other mothers. And maybe our mission as the Air Force needs to start looking like just trying to make people the best versions of themselves, and allow those people to defend the country through air power, not be so focused on the end state rather than on the people.
So I think I was probably the last one added to the list from PACE to attend, and I know I'm a fill-in for somebody else that was invited. So one, I'm just really grateful to PACE for the opportunity. Second, really grateful to all of Next Jump for having something like this available. I think general consensus is that the Air Force needs change, cultural change, and it's a big mountain. And I think it's awesome to see that there are folks here that are willing to try picking up a few rocks at a time and just start moving those rocks, and hopefully we can take what we're learning here and build that team and have more people moving those rocks. And quite honestly, as I talk to people about development opportunities or just, you know, theory of what the culture should be like, I feel like there's just a famine within the Air Force and people that are just so hungry and thirsty for stuff like this to get out to the units, which I kind of consider those small rocks. I don't think Big Blue is going to be able to fix this. I think it's going to be continued grassroots efforts that will do that. Thank you.
So first off, I just want to say thank you for hosting us and for making us a part of your family during the time that we were here. I really enjoyed the opportunity to be able to interact with the employees and to have the exposure to different people who are outside of the Air Force and the experiences that each one of you brings to the table. I'm also very grateful for the opportunity to have been given the tools that you guys have provided us that we can all take back to our organizations and apply to our own personal lives, as well as those who we are able to influence.
Great program, terrific staff, couldn't have asked for a better experience. One thing that we were talking about in our group is that all these tools that we've been presented with and the things we learned here got to be adaptable to your unit. It's got to be specific to your folks. You know, fire hose techniques of just throwing it all in there and hoping it all sticks. You know, you should be conscious of that, because socializing it with your people to get started, maybe start small, I think is what I learned here, and use some of these tools. It's just going to make your organization better. So terrific.
I'm gonna go ahead and stand up right quick so I can see everybody. First, it goes without saying, Next Jump, incredible people, incredible company. I'll come back to you. Pace, thank you for taking an investment in a small town kid who just wants to kind of be of use and service to those around him. That means a lot to me, coming from where I come from. And then to my fellow Big A Airmen, thank you for kind of accepting me as not really the NCO, but just as a person. I think that's kind of why we're all here, is to develop that person before the rank, and then just contribute to that, what we do in the Air Force. Back to Next Jump, what I guess the best thing I learned this week is the power of feedback. I never really saw it in the way that you guys do, or use it. I mean, we use it on a paper basis. It's not really part of our culture that's an every day and every week aspect, and I think that's the most valuable thing that I can take back and try to share with everybody, along with some of the other tools. Another thing is diversity is such a great team asset, and you guys have like the perfect team here. There's everybody from different parts of the country or the world, and I think that's very important too. And just like us, we have people from all over the world coming together, and I think we can leverage that just like you guys do. But overall, I am extremely humbled. I think I've learned from everybody. I appreciate feedback. I don't really know what else to say, but I'm just ecstatic that I was able to be a part of this as an NCO, because that to me is, I was telling Colonel earlier that I was actually had a fear of coming here because of the rank, gap there, being the only NCO, almost to the point where I was trying to almost find an excuse not to be able to come. So I was telling my wife, I'm like, you sure you don't need me to stay here this week? And she's like, no, you need to go this. I'm like, well, okay, I'll go. So just a big thank you. I felt like a part of the team, and I think that's awesome.
Thanks again to the entire Next Jump staff. Appreciate it. I feel like I found my calling here. I found out that I'm really, really good at sleep class. But seriously, the thing that really struck me was the honest feedback. Like you said, imagine what kind of Air Force we would have and the type of improvement, a better Air Force we could be if we had honest feedback in the Air Force. I just don't think that we do that now. I'm not sure how to implement that, make it happen, but imagine how it would be if we were giving each other twos across the board, and then you got to work from there. So we start from 4 and go backwards a lot. But thanks again for having us here.
Again, Next Jump, thank you so much for this opportunity. Being in the United States Air Force, and one of the things that you guys talked about right off the bat was you're trying to change the world. And I think in the United States Air Force, we get so focused on the mission and what we do, but that's our goal as well, is to make the world a better place, and for all of us. To the community partners, thank you so much. Talking with a few of you, I will definitely take some of that stuff back, and again, thank you for coming and sharing some of your insight. And Colonel Rizzuto and the Pace family, thank you for allowing me to be back in the family. I'm an alumni, and when I've seen everybody for about 8 months, it's been since I've been in Pace. It seems like we haven't missed a beat. It seemed like maybe over a long weekend, and we just picked up where we left off. So thank you. To my fellow wingmen in the Air Force, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time and talking with me and sharing some of your insight. And I'm going to take something away from each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thanks. First Spoon and the Pace Gang, thanks. Look forward to continuing to work with you. Next Jump, folks, thanks. I echo everything they said. If you ever find yourself in the middle of Alabama and Montgomery, all of you have an open invitation to Air University up to the gate. We'll come meet you at the gate, though. Don't come in the gate. But seriously, if you ever find yourself that way, we would love to have you and there. My takeaway is quite personal. My pet peeve the last few years has been that I feel like I am operating in a risk-averse environment with risk-averse supervisors and commanders. And you guys have served as my mirror to my own reflection that actually I have been quite risk-averse in my leadership. And I focus way too much on the good, and I'm scared to talk about the bad. And this has forced me to realize that I need to take some risk. I'm a twilight colonel. I'm at the end of my career. I have almost no personal risk to take at this. I am the guy that can take that chance to figure out a way to improve our organizations by concentrating on those things that we can work better at. And so Mike and Barry are going to help me. They're going to hold me accountable, and we're going to do this.
To say thank you seems inadequate. I wish we had better words than that, but thank you, Next Jump. I'd like to echo everything that's already been said, but there are two things that stood out. One, I was so impressed, so amazed that you can hire a bunch of engineers, for the most part, bring them on to be engineers, but you get them to grab on and embrace this culture thing, and that's one of the things that we're trying so hard in the Air Force, is to hire people to do specific missions, but we want them to be airmen. We want them to believe in embracing our core values, and so that has been a huge inspiration. The other thing is a little bit more personal. I've really been struggling for a while, stuck in one place, stuck personally in my personal development, and I've needed some kind of catalyst to get me off of that spot, and this 3 days has been that, so thank you very much.
Well, I just want to thank Next Jump, of course, and I just before I go on, I just want to thank Spoon as well. For those of you who don't know, I replaced Spoon professionally. He was in the job that I was in, or that I'm in now. He was the director of the commander school, and to meet Spoon within moments, you know that he's just genuinely a good dude. He's just a good man. Then you realize he's got this power of personality, very gregarious, extrovert. I'm the opposite of that. I thought, man, how am I going to do this job? So big shoes to fill, and it was an honor to replace you there, Spoon, and thanks for this opportunity. To the Next Jump family, that was a word that came into my mind when I came in here on Wednesday. All of us in the Air Force have been in the Air Force more than a minute. We get institutionalized, and you can walk around to any unit in the Air Force, and within moments you can tell whether it's a funky unit or if it's a healthy unit. And within moments I realized this is a very healthy unit, and family came to mind. So just thank you for welcoming me into your family. Very, very well impressed. I have to admit, just one quick thing here. So the Next Jump Academy, if you will, threw my paradigm upside down. After 25 years of being institutionalized in the Air Force and thinking that with some of my arrogance, of course, which is pointed out on my fitness thing, that I really thought I had to corner the market on how to supervise, how to lead, how to develop leaders. And you turned that upside down in my mind, and it's humbling and very welcoming, so thank you for that. And also thanks for showing me just how wide-reaching and broad my blind spots are. My biggest takeaway is my admiration for your courage to take risks, and how, and to echo kind of what Colonel Tatum was saying, is I guess how risk-averse I have been, and so that's kind of given me the courage to go back and not only take risks, but encourage more and create that environment for my folks to take risks. So I'll shut up there, but thank you so much.
Next Jump team, I want to thank you for your hospitality, Tom, Charlie, Daryl, Kyle, the rest of the team. I really appreciate the effort that you put into making this experience a valuable one for us, and to really, I really saw that there was, you were giving 110%. You know, the people that were here in the morning and staying late at night to make sure that we were taken care of. So I really am thankful for that. There's, and also the many examples that you use to display the opportunity to develop leaders in the necessary activities that need to take place to put something like this on. And we have so many of those across the Air Force that we can do a better job of as supervisors, just using those opportunities to develop leaders. And this last 3 days for me has really been a good time for me to become more self-aware, of my weaknesses and receiving feedback. I thought, 20 years in the Air Force, I thought I was pretty good at receiving feedback, and I realized that I'm not. When I feel uncomfortable watching other people get feedback, and so that's something that I'm gonna definitely take away to work on and try to be better at. And I know that this partnership that we have, if we continue it, it'll make a difference, and I look forward to being a part of the partnership with Next Jump and PACE. Thank you.
Wow. I guess this whole evolution has brought me to the terror zone. Not just being here this week, but in the planning for it, because clearly PACE is invested in this environment, invested in these people, and I was hoping that it worked okay. So I'm glad to see a lot of thumbs up, so you can go away feeling good. The thing that I think that strikes me, last time I took away a lot of things, like the terror zone, you know, getting out of your comfort zone and into your terror zone, the experimentation, the two business model, you know, the fact that engineers can operate in a way that places culture, and I would say leadership, as 50% of what they do and have an obligation to perform is incredible to me, and I think the Air Force can learn a lot from that. So I guess that would be the major takeaway for me. I look forward to a continued relationship. So I thank you now, but I'm thanking you for the future as well as we partner together.
What a humbling experience this has been, just to have this opportunity to hang out with so many like-minded professionals who are passion-driven to improve the lives of the people around us. It is truly overwhelming. And I kind of reflect on a couple of points throughout this last couple of days, and one of them specifically was when we watched our first feedback. And one of our Next Jump leaders raised a paddle that had a number 1 on it, 1 out of 4. And I thought to myself, like many of us probably did, was, oh my gosh, thank goodness it's not Friday, because we're not allowed to give negative feedback on that level right before a weekend, because we need people to ensure that they have kind of a security network around them for the week. So if we're going to give negative feedback, it's going to have to happen on a Monday or a Tuesday so we can ensure they're okay throughout the week. And I realized we have really kind of done ourselves a disservice in thinking about how we motivate, develop, and inspire people. And this piece of transparency that needs to come with leadership. Having some vulnerabilities as leaders, understand that our airmen that we lead are not perfect. We're not perfect as leaders, but there's just this constant drive that we kind of gather momentum and speed with those that open up their homes to us, which you all have done, and treated us like family. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for everything you've done for us, whether that's Next Jump, PACE. Thank you for this opportunity. It is life-changing, and I just want to thank you.
Great. I'll definitely echo all those things, but I just wanted to say that what's really kind of hit me in the heart is a lot of times because of my haircut or sometimes the clothes that I wear, I go into McDonald's and people say thank you for your service to your country. And I'll just tell you that we don't have a corner on those thank yous in the military, that there are incredible people in this country taking care of their fellow man, and I just got to see that over these couple days. And so thank you for your service and sacrifice in looking for and planning towards and moving towards a better world. And so that was pretty impactful. The other thing second to that was, you know, to be great, you got to be all in. And in the Air Force, we say that we have the opportunity to be both leaders and doers. And I'll tell you, kind of like was mentioned before, to look at programmers that are interested in being great leaders and giving feedback, that was inspirational to me to really intensify our efforts to truly do that across the force, to value being an officer, which means being great in whatever your primary assigned duty is, but also to be a great leader, or just to really be a great airman, to be good at both being a leader and a doer. The third thing I learned was this cycle of kind of give and get, or up and down, or you know, recovery and pain, or however you want to look at that, and how it's so important to give good feedback. You got to get good feedback, and to get good feedback, you got to be able to give good feedback, and to be able to grow, you also have to suffer a little bit. And so there's this down and up of life, but those are really important times, and you need kind of both sides of that. And in terms of thank you, I know there's some folks in the room who weren't necessarily a part of this academy, but you really were. Maybe you just worked on revenue all week, twice as hard, so someone could dedicate their time to help us grow and learn. So thank you for that cycle as well, because it really took both sides of the business to create what we did here today. The fourth thing I learned was this mind-body kind of interconnect, and I used to think of was good equals good and bad equals bad, right? More sleep, good for the mind, you know, more great snacks, good, you know, bad snacks, bad. But to actually learn there's a specific correlation, and someone can go, hey, you're a little arrogant based on the way you march in place, or you're a little bit insecure based on, you know, the fact that your right quad is a little bit tighter than your left quad. And I mean, that's pretty fascinating things, and how you can basically use both the mind and the body on either side to improve kind of the whole package. And really, it's you that's you in all those kind of different instances. And the last thing was just the fact that we need a little bit more practice time in the Air Force. Certain groups of our service have training sorties that they can do. But what really was impactful to me is not to make excuses and go, well, there's just folks in the service who always have to execute, and they have this no-fail mission all the time, and so they don't have that. But we do. We have little things, and you guys take advantage of those little things, like, hey, I'm going to create this garden room, or I'm going to serve in this way, or I'm going to put on this project. You know, we do Christmas parties, and we do things like that, but why not make that overtly a learning and growing event? And I think we can really reap some benefits, and you guys showed me how to do that, so thank you.
There's not a lot to add to the great words that we've already heard, but I want to say thanks to Pace for inviting me to join you. Thanks to all of the fellow airmen who are here, because just the opportunity to talk to all of you has been special for me. I miss the Air Force. I miss talking to people who are still in the fight and doing it, and so that has been very special for me. For Next Jump, gratitude's not enough. From a very practical standpoint, I could single out all the great things that I heard. There are actually some things that you do that will be adoptable, I think, at the Air Force Academy, which is an important place because it's where our Air Force starts quite a few of its officers. And if we make better them, then they will make our Air Force better over time. For me personally, the concept of investment and loss made really good sense, because I just changed jobs and I'm doing something that's inherently challenging for me, and so I'm taking some renewed energy back to that. But Charlie, Tom, all of you in Next Jump, I want to say thanks very much for giving all of us an example of what right looks like with a diverse group of people who take risk for the right reasons, who do things at a level of honesty that I have not seen in an organization for a long time. And saying what right looks like it's kind of a trite phrase, but that's really what I think we've all seen. And so for all kinds of reasons, I am grateful for this time and grateful to all of you, and it's just been a great 3 days. Thank you.
I think maybe before we hand off to Joe, if any of our guests, I know while this is all happening, I know there's some interaction, but we have kind of friends of the company, people that are on similar journeys, either in other parts of the military or in the nonprofit sector or the private sector. But if you guys are happy to hand off the mic, if you want to say anything. Sorry, put you on the spot.
I just want to say thank you to Next Jump and Charlie and Megan and Tom. This has been really a remarkable experience for me. It's not every day that a guy with my background and my history gets to attend something as prestigious as this. It was a little intimidating when I got the invite from Joseph Grenny to be able to come, because whereas most of you went to Penn State, I went to the State Penn, so our education is completely different. But to be able to come here and watch and see what you guys are doing, I think we're doing some wonderful things at the Other Side Academy with our population, but now I've learned that we can go back and do good better. And I think that's really important, that there's never really an end. When you're trying to do good, you have to continue to try to do good better and better and better. And you guys, I really learned a litany of things with the onus put on making our population more responsible for themselves. Instead of waiting for people to bring them their shortcomings, give them the opportunity and the platform to be able to stand up and own theirs on their own. And that's the big takeaway that I've taken from this. So Pace and Next Jump, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Well, I want to say I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be here too. You guys have been just so inspiring and amazing, and it was so just so energizing to sit in your presence and hear all your stories and get to know all of you. And there was so much in terms of reflection and in all of the concepts that were brought up that have such broad-reaching applications that you can take both personally and professionally to inspire your own personal growth. So I was really encouraged by that.
Thank you. My boss is a huge fan of the organization, and I now know why. This is very, very impressive effort. I find the idea of the feedback loop incredibly eye-opening for me. I hope to bring that back to the office with a renewed vigor. Just very enlightening. And the diversity of the group is really compelling to me. We're always on a journey to bring a more diverse workforce, and it really is brought home here, the value of that. The last observation I would make, because I've been in the federal government for way longer than I will admit, is we place a tremendous value on seniority in the workforce. And I see the value of empowering the more junior person. And getting that more junior perspective. I think we tend to overlook that. And frankly, years of service do not equal wisdom. So I will certainly bring that back as well. It's been terrific. Thank you.
I just want to thank you. It's been such a pleasure. And most importantly, thank you for making me the coolest person at work this week, hanging out with the Air Force, like gold stars. But honestly, this has been extremely touching, humbling, enriching. I echo everybody's comments. And it's a great reminder for me to be the change that I want to see in the world. So starting with myself. My action items are to work on my backhands, to be more brave, work on my imbalances, and take it from there.
I think that's it. You involved have to say something.
Kyle. Yeah. I just want to say, I just want to say that this has been kind of like a stoke to the fire for me, going back to the Navy here shortly. Just to know that there's people in the service that are hungry for this information, that are actually thinking about this, that this isn't going to go back and I'm not going to find myself talking to a wall, which I do sometimes. But, it's inspiring. Even the breakout session, I walked in, I was taking notes, okay, yeah, this is good stuff. This is how we can bring it back to not only the Air Force but the Navy, maybe the military, and beyond. So I want to thank you for that. I mean, it's definitely humbling to see.
So as the co-captain for the Academy, on behalf of the entire Academy team, I want to tell you what an honor and privilege it's been for us to host you in our home, have you part of the family for the last few days. You guys are awesome. The energy and excitement you brought to everything. I mean, that spin class last night was awesome, the best I've had here. The thoughtful discussion that you had was awesome to see. I appreciate the relationships, the old and the new, that were established, and I hope we continue those relationships, and I look forward to seeing all the great things that you guys all continue to do all in your organizations. So thank you very much.
I think that's enough for you, Joe.
All right, so I got a few words to say. I got to tell you that I'm not surprised by where I'm at on my my printouts and the big old frowny face. I don't know if they get bigger frowny faces than mine. There's a lot of reasons for that, but one of them, and I've alluded to the change in my personal life, but one of them was the stress I felt over this event. And I got to tell you, and there's two reasons why. So let me walk through these reasons why. This event was hugely important to me, this is hugely important to me because in 1 week from now I'll be retired. At this time, in 1 week from now, I will not be in the Air Force anymore. And I'm standing here, much to my wife saying, "Why are you going to New York?" And there's reasons. First, PACE is at a professional tipping point. Professionally, PACE is at a tipping point. We've been around 2.5 years, and we've gone through some of these transitions before, but I don't think so. We, for the last 2.5 years, have been about establishing PACE, getting PACE, people to know what PACE is, and in establishing our reputation. And we're there, and we've been there for about 6 months. And to be part of that movement was awesome. But to make the jump that needs to be made, it's actually very, very fortuitous that I'm retired and we got an awesome replacement to come in behind me. Because the personal energy it would take to make the change that needs to be made as we switch phases, I'm not sure I'd be up to it. And this is just my impediment, right? Because it's hard to switch roles, and the role needs to change. So PACE is at a huge professional tipping point, and this event is the kickoff of that tipping point. And I'll talk about why in a little bit, but you've heard me talk about it, because this award is the kickoff of that tipping point. Personally, this was an extremely important weekend to me, because I bet the farm on this. This idea of this award grew out of a concept with Charlie and I, and Megan and Katie, and it grew and it grew, and I said, do it. And we said, we're going to do an Air Force level award. Shouldn't we ask somebody? I said, no. We're in Pace's, this is going to be Pace's award, and we're going to do it. And that, I got to tell you, there's some professional risk. I said, I've already applied for retirement. What do I care? But you know, it doesn't work that way. I could say that, but I felt a lot of pressure that this weekend would work. And we were confident it would. We knew what the Next Jump Academy was. We know what Charlie and Megan and the entire team here puts out. But there was still, how are you guys going to receive it? Are we going to reach our goals? Right? I actually have goals for what this was supposed to be. There's 5 of them. We'll go through them for here in just a second. And I will tell you right now, Charlie, Megan, Daryl, Tom, Francesca, and Rachel that have gone off to a wedding this weekend, this 3 days, I don't think could have gone any better. I know Charlie thinks we could be better at feedback app, and that's great. We could, but for the professional goals that I personally bet my reputation on, I don't think we could have had a better 3 days. And if I were to take that test again, maybe I'd have a big old smiley face, because even right now some of the stress is coming off. So I just want folks to know what this meant. This was a huge investment for PACE and a huge personal investment for me. We can't do everything we want to do at PACE, and we picked this to spend a lot of our resources, didn't we? Not just the money to bring you here. I'm talking about time of our staff, effort that we put in, and the time and effort in some of the tools we've developed. And I'm walking away going, oh, how cool. How cool. Which is actually really cool, because I'm retiring on this big uphill thing, which means that the week after I retire, I'll be in depression. Give me a call. I'll be hungover probably, most likely. So I just want to go back over those 5 goals, right? We had 5 goals out of this, right? Number 1 was to recognize and honor you and your counterparts that are in Boston, right? You have taken personal risk, professional risk. You have pushed the envelope. You all are standing here saying, wow, I've learned so much, but inside of our Air Force, you are the innovators in culture and leadership and core values. Don't forget that. That's what got you here. And I hope you feel recognized and honored. That was number 1, and I think we success in that. Number 2, we want you to meet each other, right? I hope you exchange. In fact, if we're smart, we put out the book, but if we're real smart, here we go, I'm retired a week and I'm still tasking Katie, right? If we're real smart, we'll put out a contact list for you, won't we? And so you can begin to reach out to each other, right? It's important. It's important, Charlie talked about it more than once, you're not alone, right? That's not just in the negatives, in the positive, you're not alone in the risk you're taking, encourage each other. So that was number 2, and I think we've reached that. Number 3 was to document and advertise what you've done. You see it in print. There should be a discussion, because there are plans to video document up to about 5 of your stories, right? The 435th is done in a 45-minute long presentation and done by an outside organization called GLS, Global Leadership Summit, in a 5-minute presentation. So we have that one. We wanted 4 to 5 of the other two. We'd like to get something similar. So you may get a phone call. Hey, we want to put you on camera, right? But to advertise. So that was goal number 3. We'll see. We're partway there. We got you in print. And oh, by the way, that's also up on the website. So what you see written in that pamphlet is now for the world to see. Goal number 4 then was to fan and fuel the fire, and this is the one I walk away with. I think we're successful. Katie, I think we're successful. Because I listened to these comments, and I can't imagine that we didn't fuel the fire. Charlie talked about intense event versus consistency. I don't have a fear in this group right? That you go back to work on Monday and what's changed? Nothing. Because we've provided you the intense event. And the reason I don't have that fear is because you've already shown the propensity to act on intense events and apply them consistency across your professional life. And so if we just throw more logs on the fire, give you more tools at an event like this group, I am confident that will grow. So I think we've met goal number 4. Goal number 5 is on you. And there was requirements, right? And the bottom line ultimate requirements is you can't stop. We have named you our inaugural PACE Professionalism Impact Award winner. You cannot go back to work next week and get arrested for running naked in the BX, okay? You are the face of professionalism in the Air Force. So you need to keep pressing forward. You need to take that fire and that fuel we've given you and press forward. That's what we expect. And then there's one other thing we expect, right? Feedback. We don't have an app. But I want to hear 2 pieces of feedback. One, logistically, how did we do? What worked, what didn't work, that kind of stuff. And then 2, what worked in this environment, in this context for Next Jump. Send it to us. We'll work with Next Jump with that. They run an awesome academy, but if we're going to bring award winners here, is there something that we can help them tweak to make it a little different? Do we up it? Do we go 2 times on it? Do we go 10 times stress on it, Charlie? I don't know. But when we bring the best of the best, maybe it should look a little different. I would tell you from what I heard, I don't think I can get a lot of feedback on what we ought to do different. I've already provided Charlie some. Those lunches we didn't do before, those are awesome. To sit down with the Next Jumpers and actually get to know them, and our VIPs, awesome stuff. So that was the 5th is the requirements. We'll see if that works. All right, so now on to my thanks. First, I got to thank my team, my staff, right? All my staff worked hard on this, but 2 people poured out hours and hours and hours of effort, and one is up in Boston, and that's Kathy Burke, and Kathy is our curriculum development division chief, and she just spent hours going through taking my whiteboard jots and making them into something coherent, and then producing an invite list and emails, and her staff put together, specifically Carol Wall put together the pamphlets you see, the whole thing. So I owe Kathy a debt on that, but I don't owe anyone a bigger debt than I do Dr. Gunther. You guys have heard it alluded to that her and I walked home on a Thursday in November from this event, and we're scratching our head going, well, what have we seen? And what does this mean for PACE? And started a discussion that we then kicked to Charlie and Megan, and then started this spiral, right? And there was a point, Charlie, I'll be open and honest with you, there was a point we went, ooh, we may have stepped into a whirlwind we're not ready for. But it hasn't been that way. I had to eventually, with Katie, I had to establish a guy cop. And everyone's going, what's a guy cop? A guy cop is a good idea cutoff point. Because I had to set a line in the sand where I stopped changing things. And she said, thank you. And then I promptly showed up the day after the guy cop with a new change. And she said, we're past guy cop. And I hung my head in shame and walked out. Because that's what I did to her, right? And so, Katie, for me, professionally and personally, thank you for the effort and work you put in this. None of you would be sitting here if it wasn't for her, because I couldn't have done this even if I tried. So thank you for that. So I want to say thank you to some folks at Next Jump. First of all, to the entire team sitting back there. I got to tell you, what I want to thank you for, I haven't heard these words, I've maybe heard some of this sentiment. Thank you for your vulnerability. We teach at PACE, as part of our course, we teach about a thing called the vulnerability fallacy. That if we let people know we're vulnerable, we believe that they will think we're weak. When the opposite is true. When people see that we're vulnerable, it helps us establish trust and build relationships with them. I don't know if there's any more example of vulnerability but to stand right up here, deliver your TEDx on your weakness in your backhand in front of a bunch of strangers you've never met, and then stand there and take critique for the good, but still a personally stinging critique again in front of a bunch of people that aren't bought in, they're not invested. I don't know if it gets more vulnerable than that. but all week was vulnerable. You took vulnerability and risk with your business one, with your revenue by hosting us. You took vulnerability and risk in every presentation you did. And so thank you to the entire NextJump company and the entire team sitting back there for your vulnerability. We appreciate that. I do want to acknowledge a few people. And I know there's more than this that have contributed, but this is who had the interactions with us. So every time I had a good idea, the good idea ferry landed right here. We were outside Guy Cup and I went right there. It ended up somewhere in here. And usually that was with Daryl, Rachel, or Francesca, or Stephanie Lee, I believe, up in Boston. These are the folks we interacted with, not just over these 3 days, but we interacted with for the entire process. And then eventually then we would end up on a Skype with Charlie and Megan, and then we would talk about it, and the hour-long Skype would turn into 2 hours, which is amazing, the amount of time and generosity they give, and then it would go right back to those same folks to implement. So there was a vicious circle, right? We already recognized Francesca. Rachel's out, but Daryl, if you could come on up here, please, for me. And I know I'm about to make Daryl very uncomfortable, and I apologize for that, sir, but this isn't about just this 3 days. I want people to know this is about 5 months worth of work. And this is our conduit right here into your company. So we have a tradition in the military. We give out coins. This is my PACE coin that I have. On the one side is our PACE, our founding idea, right? It's the idea that your identity for you as a next jumper, for us as an airman, is created by what you believe and what you do. Your values on one side, your mission on the other. Our mission's across the top. It's to fly, fight, and win in airspace and cyberspace. Sorry, it's not the Marine Corps mission, but that's okay. Once you're Marine, always Marine. And then underneath it is our core values: integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And we got a picture that shows when those two come together, that's your identity. That's where your power is. We see this NextJump embodies that probably better than any company we've ever seen. On the front side, we have our PACE emblem. Our PACE emblem, while it looks like it's a Bud Light emblem, it's not, right? It's a wing. We are the Air Force, so the emblem is a wing. It's moving forward. PACE is underneath the wing, supports the wing, because the wing is what generates lift, right? The wing is what makes us fly. Above that, there's 3 stars. That represents our 3 core values. And then, of course, we got just Professional Arms Center of Excellence in there. So that's our coin. Our coin means that we appreciate what you've done, and it means you're part of our team. When we give these out, what we're saying is we have accepted you as an honorary member and welcome you to the team. It's not quite to the level of your PACE jacket, or I'm sorry, your NextJump jacket, right? But this is our highest honor of saying we value you and we appreciate you to the team. There's one here for Rachel. There's one here for one there for Rachel. Francesca already got hers. So, but Daryl, thank you for everything you've done for us. Charlie, sir, could you come up front for me? So, I would be remiss, for obvious reasons, if I don't thank Charlie and Megan. We went upstairs. We thanked Megan. She had cupcakes to deliver, right? Birthday for her little guy, which is so awesome. When we were stood up PACE and we were tasked to go out and change the culture of PACE or the Air Force, that's scary. That's scary because we walked right up to the line of what the culture of the Air Force was, and then we took another step. And as soon as you do that in an organization as big and bureaucratic as the Air Force, you have threatened hundreds of folks that have stakes in the status quo and the way things run, and you're there alone. To find somebody like NextJump that makes us know we're not alone, to make us know that the things that we're doing will work if we continually adjust and we give them time, that's huge to us. Cremdo Academy, and just very casually send one of the briefs we have, one of the keynote addresses we have to Charlie, and boom, the relationship starts. What I sort of respect and honor most about you is you stand up here and you tell us if you want to partner with NextJump, get in touch with me. We will partner with you. If it's an interaction and an exchange, we're on board with you if you're on board with us. And most places we go, we hear that, and then you know what happens when we send an email? Great, thanks. And we never hear back. So to know we're not alone in doing what we want to do, and then to have you live up, to have the integrity and character and honesty to live up to the word that you said, we don't find that very often, and I owe you a huge gratitude and thanks, and I appreciate everything you've done. General Leonard wants to say something, and then Dino and I have a presentation for you.
This was something that we did just a little bit privately earlier, since Megan had to go slightly early. But Charlie, I think in a very selfless leadership way, wanted to kind of share a couple things with the whole team. And this is a part of the fact that really it took both sides of, Business One and Business Two to really make this event happen. So I gave Megan our wing coin as well, and I'd like to do that with Charlie. And our coin has kind of meaning attached to it as well. And just kind of sitting here thinking, it actually has a Business One and a Business Two sides to it. On the back side is everything that we do, kind of our revenue side, if you will, and that's produce F-35, F-16, F-15 pilots. We produce intel officers, air battle managers, nurses, maintainers, and great families. And so that's what's on the back. On the front side, which is in many ways your business too, if you will, kind of the above the waterline, but really the focus of what you do here is it's the Aspis shield. And that's the shield carried by the Greeks in Sparta. And you think you've seen the movie 300, that's what those guys are carrying around. It's a round shield. They carried it on their left hand, and they used to say, "Come home with your shield or come home on it." And the idea was you could never lose your shield. And the reason you could never lose it was because that shield that you wore on your left arm was actually not to protect you, but to protect the person to the left of you. And so that's how important it is. And so how do we change the world? How do we change the Air Force? Well, we do it by just taking care of the person to their left. And we learned so many great ways to do that. And Charlie, I wanted to give you our coin and just say thank you for helping us and accelerating that.
So one last presentation, and then we'll get off the floor. Let Charlie close. Those were personal thanks from me to you. From PACE to Next Jump, from organization to organization. I want to talk about where we've been. I'm going to let Colonel Cooper talk about where she hopes we go. But I will tell you, from we've had 4 people prior to this attend academies. They were impactful, they were life-changing, they were pace-changing. I promise you they will be Air Force-changing events, because that's our task, is to change Air Force. And from your organization to pour into our organization is amazing. That's every single one of you sitting in the room. That's everybody in Boston, in London, in San Francisco. Every time you contribute to an academy, you change lives. And when you change lives, you don't know where that ripple ends. Remember the old shampoo commercial? And they told 2 friends, and they told 2 friends, and so on. You do not know, we do not know how far some of the Next Jump ideas will spread across an organization of 650,000 people who has the responsibility to protect the airspace and cyber and space of our country. And so I can only say thank you to the entire organization. And this, I hope, was a cementing event. But looking backwards, we could not have had a better partner up to now.
As we conclude our time with you, just a quick thought about what it means to be in the profession of arms. It's the offensive use of lethal power. So that makes us different than policemen or others who have this ability legally to have lethal power. And what's unique about the Air Force is we often send our commissioned officers off to battle where the other services send their enlisted members. And so trust is something that we've lost in the Air Force for a variety of reasons, but that doesn't mean that we can't be the change we want to see. At War College, they teach us that we go to war to protect human rights, the American ideals, and the free market. And within the free market, we protect the GAFA, a term I hadn't heard before I was at War College: Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple. Well, it's now the GAFN in my mind. Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, and Next Jump. I mean, my goodness, you know, when we go downrange and we leave our families, we're protecting the free market, and I look at the back of the room, crazy, smart people who have the courage to go into personal discovery, personal growth. And that takes the same kind of courage to go downrange and fight a bad guy. It might even be more scary. So at any rate, you've taught us a lot, and I hope that as we move forward from a pioneer phase to a settler phase, and we create a settlement, and we do purposeful innovation out of that settlement in terms of our PACE mission, that we continue to look to you as an exemplar for being a deliberately developmental organization. You've inspired us, so thank you.
So one last each other, we have a gift from our organization to yours. And there's one presented up in Boston, so they have one to hang. This is to hang in your halls to let it, you know, we appreciate what you've done for us, and we're committed to moving forward. So for everybody, this is a poster of our core values. It's got a couple coins embedded at the bottom, and a plaque that reads "Team Building Cultures of Excellence Together, Air Force PACE and Next Jump 2016."
I mean, it's hard to follow up on that, but just a couple quick words I wanted to share. One was when, I don't know if they call it Brooke or General Leonard. I thought he was 28 because when someone told me he was a general, I was like, the really jack guy is the general? And I was like, are you sure? I think he's like 27, 28. When he came up and gave Megan this coin and he explained the thing, our reaction, and this coin literally has pictures of planes, other stuff that looks dangerous, and then a picture with two people holding a child. And we were like, that is so freaking cool that they produce families, and that was part of the thing. So when you share the thing, and of course, like I've used over the years 300, that notion of building a smaller team, 300 that can beat 1 million Spartans. And so when he talked about the shield, it was like, this is so cool, we just have to have him share it. So he was trying to give me the crowd. I was like, no, I'm going to have you retell that story just because it's such a cool story of the coin, and the fact that it captured so much, I just appreciate you sharing it with the group. I just have thoughts just even listening in. One of the things I love is, I don't know if you caught this, but Daryl said, welcome to our home. He's a retired Marine, and there's a part, Daryl, where I feel like, sorry, I'm getting all emotional here. Just like Kyle sometimes. But no, I know how hard, you've been there so long. I mean, this is Marine, and the fact that I've always wondered, at what point would Daryl start to see Next Jump as his home, being a Next Jumper? I know you're very good at knowing how to take drill and repeat it and whatnot, but just when he just blurted the words out, and I was like, I wrote it down, I was like, he said, welcome to our home. And then when we brought on Daryl, I mean, his last post and what he wanted to do was be of greater service to the military, and didn't know how this office, the OSD, was being winded down. And just to see him up here get a coin, not from the Marines, but from PACE, the Air Force, I just thought it was just so cool. So just that was awesome. And then the story you shared as an NCO, and I don't know all the titles, I mean, I have crazy stories of, we had to go down and train Frank Grass, I think he's the National Guard General, and I took Nyan down to DC, and literally we had no concept what it means to be a general. And so the newly promoted generals get trained, and we taught and gave the keynote in the training class. And the first thing I said was, I was like, is 1 star kind of a big deal? Because in our world, you need like 9 or 10 to kind of really like matter. And when we went from the hotel to the place, you know, they had like armed guards with guns for the general and families to get trained. And of course, Nyan and I walk on with a bag from the hotel for giving the keynote. And I think 3 or 4 times they said, this is not the bus to the airport. We're like, no, we need to go to this event that you guys were at. And they're like, they just believed that we were tourists just jumping on the general bus, the bus for the generals. So I think, Kyle, are you an NCO too, or is that close? Maybe no? Is that lower or higher? Higher? All right. But Kyle's been with us, and has been with us for almost a year. Will be leaving in a couple weeks in mid-July to go back, and we wanted him to go and make change in the Navy and make big impact. And I think his biggest frustration has been that based on title, they would never listen to me. And to see your story come in here, I mean, Kyle, that's gotta, I'm like psyched for you to go make change in the Navy. And I feel like you're like an honorary next jumper that's going in there. And I feel like across the service, you've got the Air Force now, I think it will help you. And that's kind of cool, because I remember the first time I met Daryl, like we went and met different services over the last 2 years, and we said, do they realize they all kind of, each service has the answer what the other service is missing? And if they just worked together, they would probably solve all of it. And, Daryl like sheepishly nodded and said, but the Marines are a little bit better, right? And I was like, no, you're not listening to me. Like they all have all the answers. And sometimes we realize, even in our industry, like we feel competitive with businesses, but we don't want anyone outside. You need an outside organization. And it's amazing, you'll listen to the same thing that you might hear from the Marines or the Navy or the National Guard or Coast Guard, anyone. The exact same thing, but it comes through us. And I always say, it doesn't even matter where it comes from. Like we have no pride in authorship. As long as we can help get better together, I mean, who cares whose idea it was or where it originated from? So that was kind of cool for Kyle to see. One of the things that sorry, Kyle, it's like I got like your bug. But one of the things that was really cool is I got a lot of emails from our own employees through the course of the last 3 days. And what we do, the hardest part is that it's the people in our company and then the outside investors and board members who question why we do what we do, especially in business too. And part of missing the lunch I heard was a great ceremony. Megan and I were dealing with board members who were questioning and just want us to stop. And we fight this battle all the time, but we also fight it internally. And I've had some tough feedback on my own self, which I bring on myself, so I know I am to blame. But and the thing that hit me the hardest was Next Jumpers wrote in saying, I don't agree with helping the military. I'd rather us do something else. And that was hard for me to hear, to be honest. And I have no military background, but I found it to be so special. And so the goal of the lunch with Next Jumpers, selfishly, was I wanted to get our employees to touch the mission. I wanted them to see and feel what helping you would feel like. And the response I got back was twofold. One was, this is a quote, I feel this academy is closer to touching the mission than I've ever been. And two was, it was cool because it showed us that these aren't just random people here. They are top people. You guys are real people doing what we see in movies, but you're real. And I think I got so many great notes like that from Next Jumpers. And so that was selfishly worth the whole thing for us. The contact list, we have all your contacts. Right? So can we make sure we distribute all the contacts? We'll make sure you guys are in touch. And if you ever need contacts you don't know or something, just reach out to any of us. We'll make sure we get that because we want you to get in touch with each other. I was walking Megan out today after she had to go get her cupcakes for her kids' birthdays. And then, by the way, I mean, when Olivia came in, it's like my 3-year-old. I'm so obsessed with her that she has complete control of me in every way. That when she walked in, I just blanked on what we were doing, where we are, and what's going on. So if you saw, I was struggling to get back into whatever we were talking about. But she said something to me where she was like, something was different this time. I mean, and granted, like, I know you always hear that as the best group is the best thing, but she was like, it was honestly very different. She was like, I can't figure out why. And we spend time reflecting and going through every nuance of everything that we do. There's such a deliberate nature to what we do. And we were talking, just walking, and said, why was this so different? We worked with military before and whatnot. What was different? And it's nothing. And we were like, I don't believe it's an Air Force versus a Army or Navy thing, but what was different about it? And then we're like, oh my God, it was Spoon, Joe, Katie, the selection process. The selection process of what you guys did. You found the best within the Air Force, which is why the entire group, the selection process made it so much different for us, better. Peter Chica came to me saying, Charlie, Megan, I've heard you guys tell the stories. It was so much better, your finishing personal stories, than I've ever heard it. And Megan was like, I don't know what happened to me. I got so emotional. And I was like, I was crying before I even got on. I was like, and and we were saying, because we've shared, not had to, but I guess we shared the story where it kind of felt a little bit dangerous, to be honest. It felt like you were being vulnerable in front of people that were gonna probably take a jab at you. And to share it in front of you was such an honor that it just felt different for us too, because you guys are that great. So the selection process, I think, it just stood out as one of the most amazing things. Spoon, I think your last thing you said about you can't stop, right? So Megan and I already created a folder in Esther. So we have all our notes and discussions from today, and it's up to you. I mean, we mean it. We don't offer our help unless we mean it. And if we aren't going to help, we don't say we will help. We say no. So I hope to make folders on each one of you and take a personal chance. We pulling together this whole thing, as Spoon mentioned, I mean, it was a whirlwind. It was scary. I had some of the advisors that you see on that list, and even one of the names I had to remove out, they chewed me out saying, this is ridiculous. You are being small-minded to think you can even do this. This is not a startup. This is not a group, how large it is. And we got into huge fights with some of these people. And so ideally in the academy, we wanted the entire coaching team here playing a role, teaching. But we saw that we would risk them never want to help again. And so we want to take personal risk first. That's what we call dog fooding, and make sure we can add the value, make sure it works. And of course now I wish we had brought all of them, but yeah, I think the general reaction we get is you guys are high on something and you need to sober up, because that's not the way the world works, and this is too big to change. And it's funny when you talk about coins, I carry a coin every day in my pocket. It's this fake Nobel Prize coin. It's fake, it's made up, it's taped up, it's all ugly, but it's fake, and I carry it not because I believe my father would ever win the Nobel Prize. It represents all the pain and hardship I've seen him have. And so when I lack courage, when I get scared, I literally can reach in my pocket and feel the coin. And it shoots like a lightning bolt up for me to say, stop being a wuss. Like, he had it far worse. I have it far easier. I'm dealing with high-class problems. And so that's the coin where, for the longest time, and still even now, I feel like we're not normal. And we get told that. And we get told to go, and what HBR and all the experts out there have said you have to do, and we feel and have known we're not normal. And yet to see, and that's scary as hell. It's scary as hell to operate when you're being told you're not normal and you better change or else we'll fire you, we'll get rid of you. I mean, every threat you can imagine. And yet when we continue and I feel the coin, I say, you know what, like, this is the way we're going to go. It's just so fulfilling, so rewarding to hear what you said, and to see the impact and the change we're making. And I can't tell you how much that means. And I'll leave you just one last thought. And I think it was when Kevin Baser from PACE came and gave the presentation. We loved it to death. And he ended with this thing that he said represented the Air Force. And it's something that I kind of want you to take back too, which he said, don't do what we do better. We will help you, but do better. So, thank you, everyone.